Hey, welcome back. I wanted to go over with you again kind of why Flower Mound has turned out to be such a wonderful choice for me after living decades in Dallas. And, pretty much why Dallas stopped working for me and what the turning point was. I grew up, went to grade school, went to high school in Dallas, and spent most of my life there. I'm 62 years old now, so I've spent a lot of time there. And you know what? I loved Dallas for decades. And I love the energy, the convenience, the excitement. In fact, I used to travel quite a bit around the country. And I always thought to myself, I'd go to Chicago or New York or on the East Coast or West Coast and up in the North, Pacific Northwest. And I thought, I wonder if I could move to one of these cities. But at the end of the day, Dallas was still the choice. And this was back in the 80s and the 90s. And what happened was the city started just exploding with growth. And I do not believe, and this is not a political statement, although it could be, I suppose, I don't believe the city was prepared for it. And the infrastructure, the roads, the sewer system, the water runoff, just the overall intensity of that population density, I think it's overwhelmed the city. But, the lifestyle, as I was getting older, the lifestyle that I was looking for, and I didn't really know what I was looking for, but as you may or may not know, I'm a real estate broker, so I have an opportunity to go all around the Dallas-Fort Worth area and to kind of get a inside view through showing houses, through selling houses of all these different areas, which is something that a lot of people don't necessarily do. But it was when I hit it was actually when I hit my 50s, I had kind of a big tragic thing happened, and I moved back to the central part of Dallas, and it was kind of exciting at first, but then it turned into a real grind. And then a couple of years ago, we started kind of seriously looking for homes, and we were really trying to nail down areas. Now everybody wants to move to Frisco, and everybody wants to move to Plano. Waxahachie, which is in the south part of Dallas, could have been an option, but you still had to go through downtown Dallas to get anywhere on the north side if you were living in Waxahachie. So Dallas itself, I think when I entered my 60s, I thought, okay, do I want to live here another 10 years? What does that look like? And the problem that I had at the time was, I started saying, what do I want my everyday life to look and feel like? Does that make sense? Because I was more concerned at the time of, okay, everything's a little bit convenient. Takes a while to get there. It's kind of a hassle to go get some Thai food or go to the grocery store or even to get gas at a decent price. What am I going to be giving up? And we travel a lot, so we were going to DFW Airport, and that was, that was a convenient 30-minute drive. But so what I had to do was kind of flip that conversation and go, okay, what am I going to be gaining if I move? So, the pace of Dallas had changed, or maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe it's always been like that. To me, it started feeling louder. It was faster, more congested. I mean, the highways, 24 hours a day, there's always accidents. Doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is. And unfortunately, sometimes, we live near the Dallas North Tollway, and sometimes, you get these people that are wrong way drivers, and, the highway's shut down. It's kind of a bad deal. But the constant movement and energy had started to feel like it was draining. And you know what? This would probably go for anybody, who's looking to relocate from Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or any of these other bigger cities, Miami, which I visit all of those. The closest I have found to like living in Flower Mound is probably the Scottsdale, Phoenix kind of area so far. I could be wrong. I have family out there, but anyway. But there's always more construction. There's more density. There's more traffic. There is a construction project that I promise you has been going on 35 from Dallas up to Denton for 20 plus years. I don't know what's taking these guys so long. And it just continues on. I mean, even the simplest things like running errands, they started becoming stressful. Now, is it because of my age? I don't know. Is it because you can't find a parking space and you got to circle the parking lot constantly? The parking spaces are smaller. The roads are smaller. Everything started. Maybe I just became more aware, or maybe I was just kind of tired of it. But every event, every outing, it felt like an event. I mean, even the small ones, So what you got to kind of ask yourself is, what I asked myself was, so does this actually fit your lifestyle now? And the answer that I came up with was no. Traffic became kind of a quality of life issue for me. Simple drives turned into these 30 and 45-minute trips. Where I was living to my office with no traffic, 7-minute drive. One accident, 30 to 45 minutes. Same 7-minute drive. The only other alternative was to drive through a bunch of back neighborhoods, and it would still take you 30 or 45 minutes. The traffic patterns over time had shifted, even off-peak hours. It didn't really matter. Sitting in traffic just became a normal deal. It wasn't the exception. When I was growing up, it was the exception. Dallas was still kind of a big, small town where everybody knew each other. Moving to Flower Mound we've got wider roads, everything's concrete, and when you have morning time drive between 8 and 9:30 or 5 to 6:30 or whatever, it's still going to be busy. But the lights are timed and the traffic is heavy, but it's not an all-day thing 24 hours a day. It felt like time was being taken from me instead of enjoyed. And moving to Flower Mound, I thoroughly enjoy my time. I don't mind driving. That doesn't bother me, but I want to get to where I'm going, and I enjoy it. And I don't want people speeding with the loud cars and the motorcycles and everybody honking and trying to jockey for positions. It's not like that in Flower Mound. Yes, it's a suburb. There's about 80,000 people that live here, but people drive respectfully for each other. And I wasn't really used to that when I first moved out here. I got tired of the frustration rising pretty much on every trip. And you know what? You don't want to, and I'm not retired because I'm still working, but you don't want to be in your late 50s and 60s and dealing with where everything your daily life revolves around driving and congestion and not knowing when you're going to be able to get somewhere. I started valuing the proximity, the calmness, and the efficiency more than ever. I love where I am. I think it's fantastic. I would hope that would be a consideration of you, even if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s and you want to make a move. I mean, it is definitely not too late. There was something else. I noticed this around Halloween time. So people on our block, we all get together at the end of the block and set up a table, and kids are out trick-or-treating. I haven't seen that in probably 20 years. It's the first time I'd seen that in about 20 years, and kind of took me back to when I was younger. And neighborhoods, I know that they still trick-or-treat in Dallas, but I wasn't living in those neighborhoods. I was in a condo situation, but neighborhoods became a little bit more transient. You don't really know who your neighbors are anymore because there's a lot of relocation, people going in and out and staying 3 to 5 years. I mean, when my generation, I'm dating myself again, and I hope it's not too boring, but nobody ever moved. Everybody stayed in the same house. In fact, my mother still has friends where their friends still live in the same house that they've been in for 50 years. But it's different more. And, you don't really know your neighbors anymore. I mean, you kind of do, but everybody's busy, right? People are busy. They're constantly on the go. They're hard to connect with. It's kind of that missed feeling of belonging, right? And I was looking for a place where there were neighbors that actually talked and waved and helped each other. Listen, when I first started walking around here and people were saying good morning and hello, I was like, what's going on out here? It's like an alternate universe. I mean, this is great. This is America to me. This is Texas. And, I feel like we're part of a community, something a little bit bigger than ourselves, right? And not just living near people. And, I realize as I kind of get older, maybe I like to talk and, I'm curious about stuff and I have time, and community becomes a little bit more important than being entertained at a restaurant that's going to cost us $150 a person, plus the $20 or whatever valet charge and whatever other bogus charges all these restaurants are going to charge for everything. I was craving a new lifestyle, plain, pure, and simple. My priorities had shifted. Flower Mound, we had determined, was the place to be for a number of points. And I have drilled it home several times, and I'm going to continue to do it because I think there's so many beautiful, wonderful neighborhoods at several different price points. And, if your priorities are starting to shift, and listen, send me some comments. If you like what's going on here, subscribe, please. I mean, it'll help the channel and help other people, hopefully. But the priorities, as you're shifting and entering into your 50s and 60s, for me, peace became a non-negotiable. I used to say that all the time. I just want peace in my life. There's no such thing, right? But you know what? We have nature out here in Flower Mound. We have trails. We have quiet streets that became more appealing to me. Beautiful tree-lined streets. I wanted a better balance between activity and calm. That was it. I think that's what it boiled down to. I wanted to find a place that I could breathe at. I love walking out my front door or even my back door, and you can see the sky and the stars. I mean, it's wonderful. You can't do that in Dallas. I mean, it's too bright, it's too loud, it's too much of everything. Especially if you live near Love Field Airport, forget about it. I wanted to spend more time outdoors, walking and connecting with nature. It's really, really tough to do in Dallas, depending on what part of Dallas you live in. And, the nicer areas are just ridiculously unaffordable. But when you realize, your values have evolved, as I have, you want less noise, less rush, more intentional is the word, daily living, and more space for your mental and physical health. I feel better now. I feel great. I think that I don't know what it is. It's happened pretty quickly overnight. The thing about living in a city, a big city. So if you're moving here, you're relocating from, say, Houston or Chicago or any of the big New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, even any of those places, because I've helped people move from all over the country to relocate here. And you've got, when you're in that city cycle, let's see, how can I put this? You're busy, and there's traffic, and there's errands, and there's back home, and repeat, blah, 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 right? You feel like life is happening to you and not for you. And I'm not trying to sound philosophical, but it's the reality of it. And I don't think a lot of realtors talk about this because they're more concerned with just selling you a house and moving on to the next person. And how many homes can we sell this year? And what are sales going to be? Are we going to be top producer? And on and on and on. And we're going to go to the cocktail parties, and we're going to go to the association meetings and all of that stuff. That's not what this is about. This is about you trying to relocate and find something that you enjoy and making a list of the things that are important to you. My list continues to evolve, which is exciting actually. Because we can remember when our grandparents were in their 60s, like, oh, those people are old, right? They looked old. But, I kind of started noting my stress levels rising. And because, with stress comes, other bad habits, overeating. I like to smoke cigars, but I hadn't been smoking a cigar in a long time, although I still like it. I don't do it. The city used to energize you again, but it drains you. And you need to think about breaking that cycle really to feel alive. I think the people that have been living out here in Flower Mound for 20 plus years, what a gift, right? I mean, they get it. I can see it when they're out there walking their dog, they're out there walking themselves, they're playing tennis, they're playing, pickleball and all that. It's great. When I realized, I don't know that if there was a specific time or day that I realized something. Maybe I just felt like, I don't know, maybe I just felt like I was kind of trapped and that it was not going to work. I mean, we had been looking at homes, but nothing really fit the bill. And I'm obviously a little bit more particular with myself and with my clients because I know what I'm looking for. And I get past all the shiny things. Maybe it was sitting in traffic. Maybe I was walking along a noisy street and there's homeless people screaming everywhere or trash on the ground. Something disconnected. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know when it was. But I had the gut feeling, and I always go with my gut, and I knew at the time that this was not for me anymore. And, letting that truth sink in is when the conversation flipped, and I thought, okay, it's not what I'm going to be giving up in Dallas. It's going to be what I'm gaining in Flower Mound. And what I've gained is an enormous amount of pleasure and peace, and people are friendly everywhere. I go, I don't know, to the grocery store or whatever, or the drugstore, and they're like, hey, how are you doing? Nobody ever says that. Thank you. We'll see you again next time. I'm like, who are they talking? Are they talking to me? I mean, come on. And that's terrible. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say. But, that realization just kind of made things solid for me that, we made the right decision. And let me just kind of wrap this up by saying, I'm not running away from Dallas. I'm moving toward a better fit. I wanted to make things work, and I tried to make things work with Dallas. But all the areas that I was looking at, it was too far from the airport. If you're on the other side of White Rock Lake, which would be west side of White Rock Lake, you got to go around the lake. I mean, I think it was the driving. And, I wanted something peaceful, but not isolated. I don't feel isolated. And Flower Mound has plenty to do if you are a family, if you're single, if you're a married couple, whatever your status is, there is plenty to do. And it doesn't matter what age you are. They got a great senior center up here. I haven't used it yet because I can't buy into that right now. But it's a community as a whole. It's not just a neighborhood. And that is what is super attractive. The place with the trails and the nature, it's a slower pace, but you're not leaving DFW. I can still go to Dallas or Fort Worth in 30 minutes. Either side, I can go up to Denton in 30 minutes. This is a primo location, and people do not talk about Flower Mound enough. All they talk about is, oh, there's $1 million homes over here, and there's a $2 million home over here. Yeah, you got that. Yes, of course you do. But, as I start exploring suburbs and towns and stuff, Flower Mound was the fit. And it rose to the top of the list fairly quickly. And if you have any questions or comments, or you want to learn some more about Flower Mound, please follow me, and I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.